Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in and let it go. There is a place between waking and sleep, a soft, warm darkness where the world grows quiet and stories come to find you. Tonight, we open a very old book. A book with no author. A book that was not written, it was remembered. Passed from one pair of hands to another, whispered into the ears of those who could not sleep, read aloud under candles that burned too low. It is called the Lost Book of Football. And tonight, it falls open to its very first page. The page asks a question. Just one question. A question so simple that children ask it without thinking. A question so enormous that philosophers never finish answering it. What is God? Breathe in and breathe out. Let the question settle over you like a blanket. We are not here to answer it tonight. We are here to feel it. To live inside it for a little while. Because once upon a time, on a summer afternoon in Mexico, when the sun was high and the grass was green and the whole world was watching, the question answered itself. With a pair of feet, and a worn leather ball, and a small, curly-haired man from a place called Fiorito. In the beginning, there was dust. Not sand, not earth. Dust. The kind that rises when too many feet run across too little ground. The kind that coats the back of your throat and makes you cough and makes you laugh at the same time. There was a city on the edge of Buenos Aires, not the beautiful part of Buenos Aires, not the wide boulevards and the tango bars and the coffee shops with marble tables. This was the other Buenos Aires. The one that exists in every great city. The one that the maps don't bother to draw carefully. It was called Fiorito. And in Fiorito, there was a family with 8 children, and not enough of anything, and more love than space to hold it. The 3rd child had curly hair. Let us call him the 10. Not because he wore the number yet. He didn't. He was just a boy. But something in him already knew the number. Something in his feet already spoke the language of the 10, the number that is not for running, not for marking, not for defending. The 10 is for dreaming. The 10 is for the one who sees what others cannot see. The one who is given the ball and told, do something with this. The 10 learned to do something with it before he could read. He learned on a plastic ball, then a cloth ball, then a rubber ball, then a real ball that a neighbor had thrown away. He learned in the dust of Fiorito, with barefoot friends and invisible goalposts, in games that lasted until dark swallowed the street and the mothers called from the windows. He was short. He was always the shortest. But the ball never seemed to notice. To the ball, he was enormous. When his feet touched it, something happened. Something quiet and enormous and unexplainable. Other boys could kick. Other boys could run. But he and the ball, they conversed. They whispered to each other. They moved together the way 2 people move when they have been friends their entire lives. Let your breathing slow now. Imagine the dust of Fiorito rising around small quick feet. the sound of a plastic ball bouncing off a concrete wall over and over in the warm afternoon. A boy alone with his ball, practicing something he did not know was practice. Loving something he did not know was sacred. Time passed, the way time always passes in stories, quickly when you are not watching, slowly when you are. The 10 grew. He didn't grow tall. He grew dense, compact, powerful in ways that were invisible until the moment they were needed. His legs were like roots. His balance was something close to impossible. You could push him, lean on him, foul him, trip him, and he would find the ground again, always, like a coin that always lands the same way up. He was chosen. Not by a committee. Not by a form filled out in an office. He was chosen the way true things are always chosen, because there was no other option. Because when he had the ball, everyone stopped what they were doing and watched. And watching him felt like watching something you had never seen before, something you had been waiting to see without knowing you were waiting. He joined a team. And the team became his apostles. 10 other men. 10 other pairs of feet. 10 other hearts beating in a locker room that smelled of liniment and sweat and something almost holy in its way, the smell of men who are about to do the thing they were made to do. Now settle deeper into where you are resting. Feel the weight of your body. Let your shoulders drop. In that locker room, before a match that the whole world was watching, the 10 said almost nothing. He did not give speeches. He was not a man of speeches. He was a man of moments. And the moment had not yet come. The manager, let us call him the elder, gathered the apostles and drew lines on a board and spoke of tactics. Angles. Runs. Spaces. The technical language of the game that sounds like music if you know it and like noise if you don't. But somewhere above all the tactical talk, there was another voice. A voice that didn't speak in angles. It spoke in something older. Give the ball to the 10, it said. Give the ball to the 10, and a miracle will happen. The afternoon of the match arrived the way great afternoons always arrive, ordinary at first, then extraordinary all at once. The stadium in Mexico City held 100,000 people. Perhaps more. Perhaps the number doesn't matter. What matters is the sound. 100,000 people breathing together, waiting together. 100,000 hearts. The sky above was the particular blue of high altitude, thin and clear and ancient looking, the kind of sky that makes you feel small in a way that is not frightening but peaceful. The grass was so green it almost hurt to look at. The 10 walked out of the tunnel. And the crowd, even the crowd that was not his crowd, made a sound. The kind of sound a crowd makes when it recognizes something it has never seen before and knows, immediately, it will never forget. The match began. Let the minutes pass slowly in your mind. Feel the rhythm of the game, the back and forth, the push and the retreat. The 10 moved through the match like a language being spoken. Not running, exactly. Something more considered. Something that looked like wandering but was actually the most precise movement imaginable. He was always in the space that was about to matter, always one step ahead of the moment. And then came the first miracle. It happened quickly, so quickly that no one was certain, at first, what they had seen. The ball came across, high, dropping. The 10, who was short, who was always the shortest, rose for it. Or didn't rise. It was hard to tell, later, watching it again and again, whether he rose or whether the ball simply found his hand, the way a lost thing finds its way home. The ball went in. The 10 celebrated. The referee pointed to the center spot. And a nation still raw with grief, still tasting the salt of a war that had ended badly, a war fought over islands in a cold southern sea, that nation exhaled. Later, much later, he would be asked about it. He would smile his particular smile, the smile of someone who is deciding, in real time, how much of the truth to tell. It was a little with the head, he said, and a little with the hand of God. The hand of God. Let those words rest in you for a moment. The hand of God. Not a confession. Not an apology. A theological statement. The most audacious theological statement ever made on a football pitch. The claim that what happened was not cheating, it was beyond the rules. It was in another category entirely. It was sacred. Whether you believe him or not, whether you laugh or feel outraged or feel something else entirely, you have to admit that nobody else would have said it. Nobody else could have said it and made you wonder, even for 1 second, if it might be true. Then came the second miracle. If the first was heaven's joke, quick, ambiguous, laughing, the second was heaven's poem. The 10 received the ball in his own half. Deep in his own half. Far from the goal. Far from where goals are supposed to come from. There were 5 men between him and the net. 5 men who were among the best players in the world. 5 men who had studied the game, trained their whole lives, given everything they had to the simple project of not letting the ball go past them. The 10 looked up. And then he began to dance. Let your breathing slow almost to nothing now. This is the part of the story where language is not quite enough. Where words have to stretch themselves to hold what happened. He moved to the right. 1 man reached. Too slow. He shifted his weight, suddenly, impossibly, and went left. Another man lunged. The 10 was already gone. He was running now, but running the way water runs, finding the spaces between things, always finding the spaces. The ball stayed at his feet as if it were attached by something invisible, some thread of gravity or love or necessity that only he could feel. A 3rd man came. The 10 moved around him so naturally, so without apparent effort, that the man seemed to have simply stepped aside. As if he had decided that this was not something he could stop. As if he had chosen, unconsciously, to become part of the story rather than its interruption. A 4th man. The same. A 5th. He was in the penalty area now. The goalkeeper, the last man, the last line, the last thing standing between the 10 and the question being answered, came out. Lodge. Certain. Trained for exactly this moment. The 10 moved around him too. And then, with his left foot, he put the ball gently, precisely, irrevocably into the net. And sat down on the grass. No. That is not right. He did not sit down. He ran like a child runs, arms out, mouth open, all the dignity and control and considered movement of the previous 10 seconds dissolved into something completely unguarded, completely joyful. He ran and his teammates chased him, and when they caught him they piled on top of him and laughed. And the sun, the Mexican summer sun, high and ancient and indifferent to the affairs of small creatures below, the sun seemed to tilt slightly, seemed to angle its rays down toward one specific patch of grass in the Aztec Stadium where a short, curly-haired man from Fiorito lay under a pile of his apostles. The 100,000 people in the stadium had been given something they would spend the rest of their lives trying to describe. Something they would show their children and their children's children. A moment so complete in itself that it needed nothing before it and nothing after it. Just that. Just the dance. Later, years later, decades later, long after the match and the medals and all the noise of a life lived at impossible altitude, people would still be trying to answer the question. What is God? Some said, God is the force that arranges things perfectly. That takes a boy from Fiorito and a ball from the trash and a patch of dust and makes something inevitable out of it. Some said, God is the feeling you get when you see something so beautiful it makes you forget, for a moment, everything that is wrong with the world. Some said, there is no God. There is only a man. A short, imperfect, complicated, brilliant man who could do with a football what no other human being before or since has ever done. And that is enough. That is more than enough. The 10 himself. The 10 never quite answered the question. He lived his whole life in the question. Laughing inside it. Dancing inside it. Causing trouble inside it. He was born in Fiorito and he died too young, and in between he carried a whole nation on his back, and sometimes the nation was too heavy and sometimes he stumbled and sometimes he did things that were hard to forgive. But he also did the dance. He also did the dance. And the dance was a kind of answer. Not a final answer. Not a comfortable answer. Not an answer that closes the question and lets you sleep. But an answer that opens something. That makes the question feel less frightening and more wonderful. What is God? Maybe God is the moment when a human being does something that no one thought a human being could do. Maybe God is the gasp of 100,000 people who all gasp together at exactly the same instant. Maybe God is the feeling in the feet of a curly-haired boy from the dust of Fiorito, when the ball comes to him and he knows with a certainty that no argument can reach and no doubt can touch, exactly what to do with it. Maybe God is what the ball becomes when it is loved enough. Let that thought settle over you now. Like a blanket. Like the ending of a long day. Like the moment just before sleep when the thoughts slow down and the body lets go and everything becomes simple and warm and quiet. The lost book of football falls closed now. Softly. Without drama. The way old books close, with the faint smell of paper and the sound of a whisper. The match is over. The stadium has emptied. The Mexican sun has set. The 10 has gone home. But somewhere in Fiorito, in the dust, in the warm evening air, in the places where children play until dark, there is still a ball bouncing. There are still small quick feet. There is still a conversation happening between a boy and a ball that nobody else can hear. There is still the question. And somewhere, in the quiet between your heartbeats, you already know the answer. You have always known. Rest now. Rest. Tomorrow there will be more pages. Tonight was enough.